Hello there, this is Dana Arcuri, author, speaker, and wellness advocate. Today's topic is, are you the black sheep of your toxic family? And so the one clue to determine this is that you are different. You stand out. There's something about you that is unlike the rest of the people within your family. And so for me, I could say at a very young age, especially in my teens, I knew that I was different. I knew that I was not like the rest of my family, the rest of my siblings, and I may not have understood it back then, and it may have taken me 50 plus years to get to a place where I can embrace my difference and love the person who I am and who I've grown to become. And it is such an amazing journey. I call it the sacred wandering. I'm writing a book about this topic, the sacred wandering. It takes us onto pathways we never would have chosen for ourselves. It could be a time when we grow our faith in the dark, a moment in time that we start transforming, we start learning, we start growing, in which God shows us and reveals us things that we have never ever anticipated. Or it could be that for years, for a lifetime, for decades, we've lived in denial and suddenly our eyes are wide open. So let's talk today about the black sheep in a toxic family. So the one thing is that a black sheep is used as a scapegoat. They will be told over and over that they're the problem. How very interesting, because just earlier this week, I had a conversation with a relative who did say that I was the problem, that everything's my fault. It's so interesting that toxic family members and narcissistic parents just don't want to take accountability or any form of responsibility in the part that they play in the dysfunction. Instead, they use tactics. They use the blame game, the shame game. They do all kinds of interesting things to keep the song and dance a-flowing, and they don't want you to step off the dance floor. No, you see, there's much that they could gain to keep you as the black sheep of the family, as well as the scapegoat. So what's really interesting also about the black sheep in the family is that they are a whistleblower. Now, the older I became, the stronger I became, the more courageous I was to finally break the silence, to eventually blow the whistle on my family. Now, I mean, we're talking, this was easy 15 to 20 years ago. I was much younger, but I really was ready and willing to dig deep. I was in therapy, in which my therapist did encourage me to start unraveling, kind of like an onion. We just start peeling back and peeling back layer after layer after layer of this toxicity within our lives, within our family, within the dysfunction. And what happened was, when I blew the whistle on my family and started talking about the abusive behaviors, the toxic mistreatment and narcissism, they basically said, no, it doesn't exist. So they denied it, lied about it, minimized it, and then said, I was the problem, that I made it all up. It's really crazy when that goes on. And so what happened was, when we're confronted with these narcissistic people who basically deny, shame, lie, and use all kinds of psychotic behaviors and craziness to shame us, blame us, and keep us in our place, we have to reach a point where either A, we go back into denial. We sometimes can have those habits, and I think it's learned behavior. I think a lot of the issues surrounding this black sheep of the family, who's the scapegoat, it's learned behaviors. We didn't choose it. We didn't say one day, hey, I want to be the black sheep of the family. No, this narcissistic parent or siblings and family that are very dysfunctional place this label on us, and they have certain roles to play, and they want us to keep on doing this type of lifestyle, living in the unhealthy, dysfunctional behaviors of the family. And so when a person such as myself is a whistleblower and we say, enough of the nonsense, enough, they will go to great lengths to try to make us think that we're crazy, to make us think that something's wrong with us, to make us think that, we are the problem, that we're the root of the turmoil, and that we're just imagining it. So there's a lot of interesting things that can take place. So, I went through a period of time where I did the inner work, and that is part of the self-care, is doing the inner work, even if it's silent, even if it's quiet behind the scenes where you don't tell your family what you're doing. So you go ahead, you get all kind of self-help books, you dig deep. If you're a spiritual person, you do what you need to do. If you're a believer in God and really have this connection with Jesus, then you do a lot of praying, you do a lot of soul searching. But the whole bottom line of this black sheep in the family is there comes a point in time, such as now, when you say no more, and you cut the ties, and you decide that you are going to move on. You are going to not look back. You are going to seek this inner healing, this transformation, and this experience where you can continue the pathway of life that you are meant to be on. We're not meant to be held back, to be stuck, or to be in a toxic family. That is not what our purpose in life is. There is a lot of people who are suffering right now because they are the black sheep in the family, and they're feeling extremely discouraged and frustrated and stuck, and they don't know how to get out of it. And so today I want to continue this topic and mention that the black sheep in the family is also a truth teller. We tell the truth. We want to know the truth. We want to be in the truth because we know it's in the truth that we are set free, and we don't want to be held captive. We don't want to be in bondage. And we know that there's freedom in truth telling, and that's why we live it and we stand by it, and it is everything to do with who we are on the inside as a human being. Next, let's talk about other things that can go on. I have a lot of notes today. So the one thing also about someone who is the black sheep of the family is they buck the system. So for many years, that's exactly what I was doing. I pretty much said, no, I'm not going to remain in this lie and the deception and the cobweb of evilness. This is not going to continue. And that is why I did seek the counseling and the digging deep and going inward to really connect to the story and what happened and my perception of what happened. And it's interesting that some people, such as our family members, either A, they repress memories, they repress the abusiveness, they repress the evil happenings and the things that took place that were very toxic and very unhealthy, such as the narcissistic parents and the abuse from the parents. And remember, they have a role to play. They might be the shining star. Their role might be they're the golden child. So every child within the family, large or small, has a role to play. And so you may be the black sheep, but you don't have to remain the black sheep. And so when you're a truth teller, when you're a whistleblower, it changes everything. And what will happen is there will be great opposition to shut you up, to minimize you, discredit you, to really try to reduce you and your self-worth. Do not let that hinder your progress to healing. Do not let that hinder you from seeking wholeness and healing, because it is extremely essential that you let go of your toxic family and their behaviors and you move forward, even if it is alone. Don't isolate yourself. I had someone who said on the other video that I did on dysfunctional families that she has isolated herself from everyone, that she's no longer involved in relationships other than her own children, that she is very alone. in this season of her life. And it sounds from what she had said that she's living a life just on her own. So what I wanted to mention is, just because you're the black sheep of the family, or you cut off your family and you cut the ties of this dysfunctional relatives and family, that doesn't mean that you're going it alone. There's no need to be the Lone Ranger. What really brings forth healing is surrounding ourselves around people who are encouraging, loving, compassionate, and uplifting. This is really essential to our healing. We need to remember that we need on board those people who are cheering us on to become all that we were created to be. So I strongly believe that we do need to seek support, whether it is with a therapist, a psychologist, a support group, a church, or what have you. Seek whatever you need and do the inner healing, but don't go it alone. Next would be that the one thing that stands out also about this different person who's the black sheep, we're very unique people, but we're also highly sensitive people. So I'm curious of others who may be the black sheep in your family or the scapegoat of your family. Are you highly sensitive? Are you a highly sensitive person? I have another video on the highly sensitive person. It is a real thing. It's well documented in the medical community, as well as scientifically documented, that there are people who are just very intuitive, very creative. We're much more sensitive than the average person, and that we feel what other people feel. So we don't just have this awareness around us, but we actually feel upon us what others are feeling. Therefore, when this narcissistic parent or these people within the family who are, very dysfunctional are sabotaging us, we feel it. We feel the great pain, and it could be very hurtful, and it could cause us some setbacks. So we have to be aware that as highly sensitive people, we need to carve out time alone. Now, that doesn't mean we don't need a support group. That just means carve out some time, little tranquility, a little soothing, nurturing self-care, whether it's walking outdoors, getting close to nature, going to the ocean, walking barefoot on the beach, what have you. Do what works for you, but take care of you. Next, let's move forward with the dysfunctional family has a lack of empathy. You see, no matter how much you try to discuss with them, you want to have a very adult conversation, a heart-to-heart conversation with this toxic family. You could talk until you're blue in the face. They will never empathize with you. They will never understand you. There will be continual misunderstandings, and there will be this little triangle. It's like a triangle. I don't know if you could see it. I don't know if it looks like a triangle, but the bottom line is that there's this triangle and there's 3 people involved. And so you're one of them, and you didn't choose this part, but somehow you got sucked into it. And there's these 2 other people, and one person, say your sibling, and here's your mother, and then you're the one like kind of in between. And this sibling is telling the mother or the father lies about you. They are basically changing the truth. They are really giving some false accusations about you, gossiping about you, and saying things that are not accurate or not true whatsoever. And then this person who's the narcissistic mother or father or whoever, then they come to you and they tell you what this other person said, but they don't tell you who it was. So the triangle is they won't say who it is. So if you call them out and say, okay, which sibling said this about me? They'll deny it. Suddenly, oh, I forget, I don't remember. It's a bunch of hogwash, and again, it just continues the song and the dance of the dysfunctional family, in which you need to step off the dance floor and say, no more. Next, let's move on to, there's some really interesting things and some wonderful positivity about being the black sheep of the family. There is self-growth. There is spiritual growth. You become everything you are meant to be. You have gifts, you have strengths, and it is your purpose in life to follow that. Thank you, and God bless.